I'm telling you, if you ever want to see what it looks like when people confuse silence for surrender, come out to my place. There's always that moment in life when the dust settles and you're standing there, thinking you're finally safe. And then, bam, someone in a suit on an ATV tries to bulldoze right over your little slice of peace. That's how this started. I'm James Mitchell. Yeah, I was the guy in charge of keeping federal land disputes honest for a couple decades. But now I'm just the quiet guy with 40 acres of golden wheat and a stubborn bull named Ferdinand, trying to enjoy the retirement I earned. That was until Rebecca Martinez, the new HOA queen bee, decided my family farm was the last obstacle in her vision for a perfect suburban utopia. Rebecca rolled in on her cherry-red ATV one Monday, tearing up the field my granddad had taught me to plant, like she was doing me a favor. She hopped off, all business, swinging around a fancy tablet, talking about community standards and property values, rattling off violations she'd supposedly spotted. And I'll admit, for a second, she almost made me question what I knew about my own land. But only for a second. When you've spent 25 years reading federal law for breakfast, you can smell fake authority a mile away. I tried to explain, this land isn't part of her HOA, never was. That didn't slow her down. She was snapping photos, threatening me with fines, sending official-looking letters every couple days. Fence too high, livestock too loud. My no trespassing signs not neighborly enough. She knew how to weaponize paperwork. I'll give her that. I watched her turn the whole neighborhood against me, one potluck and community walk at a time, always stopping right by my fence line, giving lectures about how much nicer Greenfield estates would look without that farm. Some folks started believing her, but a few didn't. Like Eleanor Patterson, the retired librarian who's sharper than any lawyer I know. She saw right through Rebecca, started taking notes, keeping records, quietly building her own case. The first real twist came from Rebecca's husband, David. Yeah, her own husband. One morning, he knocked on my door looking like he hadn't slept in weeks, clutching a box of paperwork. Turns out, David had dug into his wife's home office after hearing too many late-night phone calls. What he found made his stomach turn. Forged signatures, fake fines, a contract offering up my farm, and a bunch of land she didn't own, to a developer for millions. She even used David's name as collateral on loans he never signed. The man was terrified, not just for his marriage, but for the whole neighborhood. He wanted to help me bring her down. Rebecca kept raising the stakes, filing complaint after complaint, dragging in county inspectors with technical jargon only someone with legal training would use. I lost days of work to government folks poking around for violations that didn't exist. She hired a private firm for an environmental assessment, 43 pages of cherry-picked data, painting my cattle as a threat to the entire state. She was building a paper trail to force me out, and you could see the toll it was taking on the people around me. Neighbors started whispering, some got fined for mailbox colors, others for Christmas lights in November. Rebecca had everyone scared, but after that stunt, her ATV spelling out "move out" in my wheat field, destroying months of work, just 2 weeks from harvest, I'd had enough. She even brought a camera crew the next morning, spinning the vandalism into evidence that I was the problem. That's when I realized I couldn't play nice anymore. I dusted off my old skills, logged into federal land databases, and started digging. What I found: Greenfield Estates was built on land with unresolved federal claims going back 40 years. Rebecca knew. She was involved in the paperwork. Worse, she'd already signed a deal with a developer for a land package that included my farm, even though she had no legal right to sell it. Eleanor, the librarian, turned out to be my ace in the hole. She'd been gathering evidence for over a year, recordings, letters, notes about every shady HOA meeting, every bogus violation, every threat. She and David joined forces with me, and together, we quietly spread the word, sharing what we'd found with the right people. The tension was so thick, you could cut it with a knife that we set the stage for one final showdown: Rebecca's big announcement at the community center. The room was packed, residents, media, even a couple federal agents. just in case things got wild. Rebecca strutted in, selling her grand vision for a luxury golf resort, promising sky-high property values and waving around contracts that, as it turns out, were forged. That's when David stood up, his voice shaky but determined, and told the whole room about the fraud, the threats, the lies. Rebecca tried to shut him down, called him unstable, but Eleanor wasn't having it. She backed him up with documentation and a year's worth of receipts. Now, let me back up a sec. I hadn't planned to speak. But when the room got silent, you could feel everyone waiting for me to say something. So I did. I laid out the federal records, the forged contracts, the money siphoned from the HOA, the proof that Rebecca had no legal claim to any of this land. Then Agent Chun from the FBI stood up. Yeah, that happened. Read Rebecca her rights right there in front of the whole neighborhood, while the crowd erupted. You could see the moment when the power shifted. Her years of intimidation, the web of lies, the fake authority, gone in an instant. By the end of that week, Rebecca was indicted. The developer she'd partnered with got their own day in court. David, her ex by then, became the new HOA chair, slashed the fees, opened the books, and got rid of 80% of the ridiculous rules Rebecca had invented to keep everyone in line. Greenfield Estates went from a place where neighbors spied on each other to a real community. Garden plots instead of petty fines, block parties instead of hearings, and the old Mitchell problem turned into a case study for law schools across the country. Ferdinand, the bull, still roams his field. Kids come by to see the famous bull who stopped the bad lady. The wheat field was replanted, and maybe it's just poetic justice. It gave the biggest harvest I've ever seen. We even used some of the proceeds to start a scholarship fund for local kids, because, well, that's what real communities do when they finally remember they're stronger together. 4 years on, Rebecca's in prison. The HOA is a model for transparency. The developer's land is now a public nature reserve, and the farm is still here, standing, thriving, and more respected than ever. Sometimes, all it takes is a few good people refusing to be bullied, a librarian who's not afraid to use a tape recorder, and a stubborn old bull to remind everyone that some things are worth fighting for. You know what I mean? That's the thing about justice. When you finally shine a light on corruption, it doesn't just punish the guilty. It restores trust, builds something better, and gives everyone else a reason to stand up the next time someone tries to steal what's not theirs. But let's not pretend the fight's ever really over. So, if you've ever tangled with a bully, an HOA, a boss, some two-bit official, don't keep it to yourself. Speak up, stand your ground, share your story. Because when good people come together, even the slickest operator with the shiniest ATV can't outrun the truth. Now, let me ask you, after everything I went through, after what my neighbors learned, after seeing how easy it is for one person to twist power for their own gain, what do you think? Where's the line between protecting a community and controlling it? When does justice tip over into revenge, and who gets to decide? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop your stories, your take on what's right and what's just, down below. Maybe together, we can figure out how to keep the bullies at bay for good.